So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. To begin with, I would like to have a short alignment, as you mostly know us because of our first and to date most popular ISV solution, mobile NAV, and this is very good. But we would like to change the image of us from the mobile NAV guys to Multisoft Innovative Solutions, because Multisoft is the company behind mobile NAV, and beginning with last year, we started to focus on developing several ISV add-on solutions for Business Central and Dynamics NAV, and we don't want to develop infinite amount of unique functions for customers one by one, but we aim to focus on a group of features we can identify as an application or an extension, and we can broadcast it worldwide. So this follows Microsoft's new idea of extending the base functionality, and we fully comply with it. Our solutions are BC SaaS compatible, but of course all of them can be implemented in an on-prem or perpetual subscription access environment too. All in all, let's say we have changed our approach from only providing the domestic customers with unique solutions, but to develop standard solutions which are applicable to almost every system. As we have now more than 8 years of experience in the ISV program of Microsoft, this was an opportunity for us we couldn't miss. So all I'm trying to say now that from now on we will introduce ourselves as Multisoft Innovative Solutions, but of course we will continue to develop mobile NAV as well as other several applications. And now, as a recap, let me let me show you some of our already available products. I guess you all know mobile NAV, which is a universal, customizable, offline capable mobile solution for every platform, including iOS, Android, Windows CE, Windows Mobile, BlackBerry, Windows 8, Windows 10, and so on. So every mobile platform you can imagine. It is available for NAV users from NAV 2009 to the latest Business Central, including the SaaS version. Yes, of course, we are in the app source, so you can look up our solution and download it and start your own trial version. This was the first product that we started to develop and sell through partners, and it became a success story of ours. As we have now more than 200 partners in more than 70 countries, and if my calculations are correct, we have now more than 8,000 end users worldwide. Based on mobile NAV, we've made a solution for focusing on warehousing. It's called VMS Mobile NAV. It includes barcode reading, smart scanning, and so on. And we have also created a field service solution that we call Servotion. We integrated it with a visual scheduler. We have created an automatic resource allocator in it, a checklist function, a customer portal, and a lot of useful features for field service. Further, we have an advanced localization. It is also published into the app source since a couple of weeks ago. This localization grants that a standard W1, NAV, or BC database complies with the local regulations, and the package also contains the translation of the captions and tooltips. We are developing localization for our own customers for a while now, so we have the necessary experience. If you guys have any client who has a subsidiary in Hungary and they are struggling to comply with local regulations, and and they require local support service, then please do not hesitate to contact us, because we will be able to help you for sure. Our most recently published ISV application to the app source is Rebils. The name comes from a recurring billing scheduler. As it is a talking name, the solution helps to create periodically recurring invoices and sales orders. And the latest product that we are about to talk about is MDSync. Let's jump to this topic, and we are going to introduce you to our latest ISV solution. Tibor, my colleague, will talk about the features, and he will do a live demonstration too. So Tibor, if you are ready, then please take over the presenter right and show us how this works.
Okay, thank you. So welcome everyone. My honor was to demonstrate our latest solution, master data synchronization, to you. So what is master data synchronization add-on is about? So basically, the task of this add-on is very simple. It's aimed to basically synchronize tables between the different companies within the same business central database. So if you have a business case where a customer is having multiple companies within the same database, and they want to keep the common master data like customers, items, or even certain payment terms or other master tables in sync between the companies, then you can use this add-on to very simply keep these tables in sync. So if you will create a certain record or in a table which is in sync or in it is synchronized between the other companies, then basically the add-on will make sure that that very same record will also be created in the other companies as well. But of course, it will do many other things. So as I mentioned, the business case is when you are having more than 2 companies within the same business central database, and you want to keep your data in sync between all those companies. Here's a very simple example. So if you create a resource in company A, then it should also be created in company B as well, and all the other companies which are configured for data synchronization. Okay, which supported additions do we support? So basically, it also works with Business Central Premium or Business Central Essential. So you don't need to have a premium license for the master data synchronization add-on. And the advantages are the customizable synchronization model. So you can set up basically which tables do you want to have synchronized between the companies. The setup is very easy. I will demonstrate that in the next minutes. We have a master slave architecture. So basically, you can choose master companies and slave companies. In the master companies, you can do modifications in the synchronized tables. In the slave companies, you cannot, but you can have multiple masters. So it is possible, basically. And the automatic synchronization will happen between the companies thanks to the add-on. Okay, let's see how that works. So let's imagine that you have 2 master companies, 1 slave company, and some other companies which you don't want to sync. And if you use master data sync add-on, then you can basically do a synchronization between the masters and the slave company as well. And those companies which are not in the synchronization group can be left out of this whole story. And to set up the synchronization model, you basically will select the companies, you will assign roles to those companies, like master or slave. You can select the tables which you want to synchronize, and maybe some fields, some table fields you might want to skip because of certain reasons. You don't want to synchronize that is also possible. You will see that later on. Yeah, you will select the master and slave role to each and every company. And once it's set up, then you can enable the synchronization, and from that moment on, every modification in the master will be automatically pushed to the other masters and the slave companies in the same group. So let's see some terminology what we have introduced in our add-on. Of course, there are the companies, the Business Central companies, and for flexibility reasons, we have created a term called synchronization group. The synchronization group can be a subset of the companies. So yeah, of course, it has to be at least 2 companies, but it can be a number of companies. And in the synchronization group, you need to have at least 1 master, of course. But you can, as I mentioned, you can have also multiple masters within the same group. So that's not a restriction. Of course, we have tables for synchronization. So you will select certain tables for sync. You can have field exceptions, which we use for basically leave certain field modifications out of the sync. So if those fields are changing, those won't be synchronized to the other masters and the slaves. You can also introduce default field exceptions, which will be basically common field names, which should be escaped in each and every synchronization tables. What you add, this is for easier setup, because if you add, for example, global dimension 1 code and global dimension 2 code for any reason, because you don't want to have them synchronized across the companies, then you can create them as default field exceptions, and those will be automatically added if you add a new field, a new table to the synchronization setup. We also have data synchronization validation process, which means that when you try to enable the synchronization across the companies, an automatic data synchronization validation process will begin, which will basically go through each and every table, what you have in your setup, each and every record and each and every field which are not escaped, and the add-on will check whether every data and every record are in sync when you try to turn this on. Because when you turn this on, it has to be in sync, and afterwards the add-on will make sure that it will keep in sync. But when you try to turn it on, you need to do that manually. So basically, the very first step is to have data identical companies or empty tables or data which you manually synchronize, and then you can turn this add-on on. And you can also export and import a configuration of the master data sync. So if you create your custom configuration with tables, field exceptions, etc., you can very easily move it to the production later on. Okay, let's see some features. Basically, our add-on is utilizing the subscription events of Dynamics or of Business Central. And with Change Company, we are basically make sure that we are iterating through all the companies which are in the same group, and we'll do those modifications in the other companies as well. Create, update, delete, or rename operations will be automatically synchronized, and those will be in the very same transaction. That's important because in that way you can make sure that that if you failing the transaction, that everything will be rolled back. So you don't need to worry about that. As I mentioned, the modifications in the slave companies are not allowed because those are slaves. If you try to do so, the user will get an error message that you cannot make modifications in a synchronized table in a slave company. So that is handled. And if you try to, for example, turn on the synchronization for a very, very big table, which contains several thousands of records, and you try to turn that on, the data validation, the data sync validation process can take a while. And until that data sync validation process is being executed, then of course the modification in the master companies are also rejected because the user has to wait until the data sync process is checked, and there is no modification in between. Otherwise you can have problems. There are of course some limitations of this process. At the moment these companies should be in the very same database. Later on, you will see it in the roadmap. We are also planning to allow any companies outside of the database as well, but that will have other consequences as well. And these triggers are running, the modification triggers are running on the actual company only because of change company. So the triggers won't run in the other company. So if you do a modification and there is a business logic in behind, then that business logic is only executed on the actual company where you do the modification. On the other companies, not. Only the data will be created, or the record will be created or modified in the other companies. And flow fields, blobs, media or media set type fields are not supported at the moment, so you cannot synchronize them now. Okay, and let's see the demo now. What I'm having as a preparation here is a Business Central 16 version on my demo system, and I've already installed a master data sync add-on here. And yeah, let's start from the beginning. So we'll go to the assisted setup and try to set up this new add-on. So I go there and I choose the setup MDSync, which is our assisted setup. Of course, we have a welcome screen, which you can jump to the next one. And the very first step is to create the synchronization group, what I mentioned. This is a mandatory thing, so you need to have at least one synchronization group. I will name it test group. And here you can choose whether you are using an existing group or try to create a new group. I have chosen to create a new group at this stage. And I will also choose set up all companies because I want to also make my additional companies either master or slave during this setup process. But these are not mandatory steps. So I can go to the next one. On this step, I can import synchronization packages because a master data sync will come with a couple of predefined synchronization configurations. So if I go to packages, I can either browse my custom one, which I have already created prior to the installation, or I can use this default package. And if I do so, then I can choose among a couple of options. Of course, this list of setup packages will grow with the time. So even if when we are planning to release the product, we'll have much more than this. But this is for demonstration purposes for now. So we have a customer, an item, and a vendor package, and you can have and you can select multiple ones as well if you want to import. I will choose the item package for now, and I press import packages. Okay, this step is finished, and the next step is to set up the companies. The system automatically lists the different companies within the same database. So as you can see, I'm having a company master, a company slave, and the Cronus, the default company in the database. And for each company, I can define which synchronization group do I need to, or do I want to assign. So I will choose the test synchronization group, which we have created in the first stage in the assisted setup, if you remember. And I can choose the role of the company. So the company master will be a master company, the slave will be a slave company, and finally the default Cronus will also be a master, for simplicity for now. And I can press next, and basically we are finished. So if I press finish, then we have executed the initial setup. So let's see what we have done. I go to the master data sync administration, and yeah, it's fairly empty here. But what I can see is that in the group setup, I'm already having a group, which is a test group, what we have created. From the test group, you can navigate to the data sync setup of the test group. And if I open that up, then you can see that the default item synchronization package with the different tables are already filled in. So I'm having the vendor, the country, and the different tables, which we found that when you try to synchronize the items, you also need to synchronize these tables as well. So basically, we will create this kind of similar packages here. So I will select all tables now, and I will enable them for synchronization. And what I will also do as part of the setup is that the so-called default field exceptions, because if I go back to the data sync setup, I can see that there are no field exceptions at the moment. So each and every table will be synchronized with all these field values. But we have default field exceptions in the administration pane. And if I open it up and I try to create a new default field exception, then I can create a couple of ones, like last date time modified. Oops, sorry. The system will automatically check the tables which are already added as the sync setup. And if there is a table with the last date time modified already in as a field, then the system will ask me whether do I want to add that as a field exception automatically. I will say yes. And I will also add other ones like last time modified, or last date modified. These are basically common NAV field names, as well as the global dimension code, dimension 1 code, for example, and the global dimension 2. Oops. Like this. Okay, so I added a couple of default field exceptions, and if I go back to the setup and check the data sync setup, I will see that, for example, the item is already having 4 field exceptions, which I can also check out which were there set up data sync field exceptions, and I can see those which we have added as before, but we also have that on the vendor as well. So this has been added already. Okay, so basically that was the setup, so to say, and the very last step is to enable the synchronization between the companies, because now we have 3 different companies. We have a couple of tables, as you have seen, like vendors, items, etc., country and region code, and I can press this enable sync now. And now the data sync validation process will start, which will go through all of these fields, tables and fields, and we'll check whether the data is in sync. If everything is okay, then I don't have any error message here, and I can see that the sync enabled became true on the group setup here. What also happened is that on the administration pane, I can see a validations tile which I can open up, and here the system will list all the different data sync validation processes what has been executed so far. Here you can see the different settings of the sync, like which company they did the sync around for, which table, etc. Since this was a general synchronization enabling, it was not specified for company, it was not specified for a certain table or certain field. So it basically executed for all the different companies and all the different setup tables what we have. And it took something like 9 seconds and 74 milliseconds to run. So that's for the validation so far. But since everything was in sync, there is no additional record here. The system found everything is in the proper value. Okay, in the company setup, you can see the companies, and here you can also change the roles and the groups of the companies. And basically, that's the how you can set up quickly the master data sync. So now we have these 3 companies enabled for data synchronization for those tables which we have imported with the item package. But of course, on this data sync setup page, you can also manually add additional tables and try to enable them. Okay, let's test what we have done. So I'm logged in this Cronus International Ltd. So I will quickly go to the master company. So I will change the company. And in the master company, we will go to the items and we will do some modifications. So let's go to the items in the master company. And as a start, let's create a new item. I will choose an item template. And I will give it a name like test item. Okay, that's normal process. Okay, I will go and edit the bicycle, which is an already existing item, and I will modify the description, like bicycle mode. and close the card. So as a user, I don't see any difference. I have created a new item, I have modified an item, nothing really changed. Okay, but now let's see what happened in the slave company. So I will choose the slave company for now, and the item list is already opened. And as you can see, the bicycle is already modified in the slave company as well. So as a result of MDSync, this description of the item has been automatically synchronized, but not just this modification of the item, but if I scroll down, we can also find the test item which we have created in the master company. Yeah, let's try to do the same in the slave company. So let's try to modify the bicycle, for example, in the slave. Okay, so let's modify the description and add some more modifications here. As I try to close the card of the item, I will get an error. And as you can read, you cannot modify the synchronized table in a slave company. So the item table cannot be modified in the slave. But that is what we have expected because we are in a slave company. And the same applies for the deletion. So if I try to, for example, delete this test item, what we have created, I will say yes to delete, and the very same error will appear that you cannot do a modification in the slave company. So I cannot delete this item here. And if I would try to create a new one here in the slave company, of course, I will also get the very same error. So I cannot do any modifications in the item table. So that's good. So let's go back to the master company. And yeah, just very quickly, just revert these changes. So I will just simply delete this bicycle here, which will automatically synchronize to the slave, of course. I don't show it right now. And I can also delete, of course, and the deletion will also synchronize to the slave company. Okay, this is so far so good. So we have a master, we have a slave, and I cannot modify in the slave, but if I modify in the master, it will be synchronized automatically to the slave. But what happens when, for example, it's not an ideal situation and we try to enable synchronization on a table which is not really in sync? So what happens in that case? So what we'll do is that I will go back to the slave, because that will be the out of sync company. And before that, I will open up the master data synchronization administration. So I will go there and I will turn off or disable the synchronization. I can do that with a button press. So now the test group is not synchronized. Okay, so now if I open up the bicycle for modification in the slave, because we are in the slave company right now, I can do this. Oh, I will enter slave, bicycle slave, and it's saved. So now I'm in the company slave and I can do modifications because the synchronization is disabled. And I will also create a new item here. I will create a test item slave in the slave company, and I will go back to the master data sync administration, and I will try to enable the synchronization again, because what we have done, we had 3 companies and I modified one item in the slave to make it differ from the other 2, and I will also create a new item in the slave company to differ. So I will try to enable synchronization, and as a result, I will get an error. I get an error that the companies in the test group are not in sync. So I need to check the log for further information. Okay, I close this one, and we will go back to the validations. As you can see, there is one more validations which has been executed, and I can select that validation and press on the data sync records, because the data sync records will show me what were the differences. Okay. If I open up this sync records page, it will show me by company and by item what happened. So basically, the status column will show me what is the problem there. So as I can see, there are basically 2 companies, the master and the Cronus, where the item 70062 is missing. So that was the item what we have created in the slave, and that item is missing from the company master and from the Kronos International. Okay, so that's so far so good. The same applies for the item unit of measure for that new item that is also missing from the master and the Kronos International. And we have a difference in the item 1000. I can see that the status is different, which means that this record, this item 1000, is different across these companies. Okay, but what is the difference between them? Because the missing is fairly simple. If a record is missing, that is not existing at all in there. There is not much detail what you can you can be interested about. But in the different case, what is the difference? So I check the data sync differences, and I can see that by field and by company, what are the difference? So basically, we have the description field. You can see the field name here. The description field is having different values. In company master, the value is bicycle. In the slave company, it's bicycle slave, and in the Kronos, it's bicycle. And the same applies for the search description. We have only changed the description, but because of the NAV logic, that also changed the search description as well of the bicycle. So that's why the search description also differs. So from this field differences list and the data sync records list, you can basically clearly identify what is the problem when you try to enable a synchronization between companies, and you can react on this. Either at the moment it's only manual process, so you need to either modify the other companies to bicycle slave, or modify back the bicycle slave to normal bicycle in the slave, and then it will be in sync and you can enable the sync again. Okay, I think I'm finished with the demo. So let's see what I'm having as a slide. Yeah, the very last slide I have is the roadmap. As I mentioned, currently the master data synchronization add-on is utilizing the change company and the triggers inside the Business Central database. But in the next version of master data sync, we are also trying to provide different ways of synchronizations, not just this subscription-based and change company-based synchronization, but we will allow SOAP or OData-based web services. But as I mentioned, it has some advantages that any company and any database can be enabled for synchronization, but it also has some problems, because if you do so, I mean, you use, for example, OData or SOAP web services, then you need to worry about your transactions, because if you invoke a web service and that is finished in a certain company, that web service call will be committed in that particular company. And if you have other problems in the other companies, then you need to make sure that you roll it back manually somehow in those which you have already committed. So of course this approach has some disadvantages as well, but sometimes you need to enable something like this because you are not in the same database, Business Central database. We are also planning some CRM and Business Central synchronization based on SOAP web services. And as I mentioned, at the moment, the data sync validation process is just creating a log for you with the differences, what you can analyze. But later on, you can basically in the newer version, we will allow something like a data sync manager, where you can easily decide, okay, the value in the company slave is the proper one, and copy it over for the other ones to make everything in sync. And you don't need to do that manually. So basically, we will allow something like not automatic, but a convenient way to have your databases or companies sync, and in that way you can enable the synchronization, the automatic synchronization. That concludes my presentation. I will give the presenter back to Berton, and he will talk about the prices.
Thank you very much, Tibor, for the demonstration. I hope everyone finds it very interesting and it starts some ideas. Now I will shortly talk about the licensing and the pricing because I believe most of you are interested in it. We have created a base package that allows you to have data synchronization between two companies. The price of the base package is €3,000 if you would like to purchase it for on-premise perpetual system. And if you would like to have it in a subscription model or in the BC SaaS version, it is €120 per month for two companies. Every further company should be licensed. For the perpetual, it's plus €500 per company, and for the subscription and SaaS versions, it's plus €20 per company. And of course, we apply maintenance on the perpetual purchases, which is 16%. These are only informative prices. We reserve the right to slightly adjust them in the near future, but if you are interested in it and if you see any potential, please feel free to contact us and start a discussion because these numbers are not written into stone yet. You can see our email address on the right side of my presentation. We can grant you a 30 days trial version too, so you can try it out, and we are eager to receive your feedbacks. So I believe that's it for the pricing and licensing. We planned it not to be very complicated, so yeah, that would be that. Further information, we are planning to do a Rebus themed webinar next month, as I mentioned earlier. But of course, because we have missed and we had to cancel our last webinar, we've created a video in this topic, and we will release this video today. So who's interested in Rebus, we will send the link of the video to them. There is, let's say, everything you need to know about Rebus, and after so later when we are doing the webinar live on 7th of July, you can join us for a joint Q&A session where we can answer the gathered questions you have about the video, and of course you can probably have the answers during the webinar. So that's about Rebus. I hope you will join us on 7th of July as well.
After this session, we will upload the recording of this webinar. In the video description below, you will find a link where you can share your thoughts with us. Thank you very much for joining us today. We hope to see you next time as well. Bye-bye.